So it's Super Bowl time, guys. And with that, we have early lines out on this. It is 3 pretty much across the board in favor of the Chiefs over the Bucs. 56 is your prevailing total. There is a 56.5 out there at FanDuel. Even when you look across here in Vegas, Brad, it is 3 really across the board. Again, all these 3s are juiced. If you want the Chiefs at 3, they are juiced to either -115, -120, or even bigger than that at a couple of books out there as well, even more than the 120. Look, I'll tell you right now. One, what did you think this line was going to come out at, and did you act on it when it came out?
I've not acted on it. My guess was around 3.25 about in the third quarter of that Buffalo game. But I'm thinking about it more. I think it should probably be 3.5. I've not bet it yet, just because we've got so much time. I don't think the 3's going anywhere that soon, or hopefully not. But it might ping pong back and forth. There's going to be some Brady love in the market, I would have thought. I mean, just given that Buffalo line yesterday, that closed a true 3. There was plenty of Buffalo love, plenty of sharp money on that. So I don't think we're losing the 3 if you want to bet the KC. And I think that's probably the side I'm going to end up on. And to me, it's just like I'm fully bought into this narrative that they weren't showing everything they had, and that we've seen them now in 1.5 playoff games this year with Mahomes, and they've just been unstoppable. I think they may have punted once, which was the first drive of yesterday's game, and that was when Tyreek dropped a 30-yarder that hit him directly in the hands. So no one has stopped them. No one stopped them last year, and no one stopped them in the year before, except Mahomes never touched the ball in that AFC playoff championship game. In overtime, Brady got the ball first and went down the field and scored. So the last time they've lost a game they were actually trying properly to win is that game 2.5 years ago, which they would have won if I think was it Frank Clark or someone lined up a yard offside on the play that would have won the game. And I just don't think that's any model of this year. Like, the Bills were the better team yesterday according to Football Outsiders, and I think that was why the line was stuck at 3, because there's any model is going to have this year's stats, but it's like the Bulls from the 90s. They play their best stuff in the playoffs, and you can almost throw the regular season stats out here. And I don't know. I went back to look at the box score from the first Bucks KC game, and the Chiefs dominated that game as well. Mahomes threw for 463 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like every single test this year where the game has been lined within a field goal, so the Saints, so the Bucks, so the Ravens, the Chiefs just stomp them. As soon as they want to, we're going to stop. We're just going to run our good plays now, and you can't cover Tyreek or Kelsey. And if you do win, a couple of times, obviously the Bills are a good defensive team. They're very well coached. They got a couple of free blitzers where they won within the design of the play. Mahomes just beats that as well. So I really don't know how you actually stop them when they're giving you their best shot.
Yeah, I went ahead and took the 3. I bet it 6 times. I bet it 6 times already. And it's a situation where, look, they were able to generate a ton of pressure on Allen, and they were able to get him kind of off his spot, and he's at least a mobile quarterback, right? Like he did extend a couple of different plays and was able to get the ball out, was able to do a couple of different things, which we know for sure Tom Brady is never going to be able to do. Now, Tom Brady's also a little more apt to take the hot read. He's certainly probably better at reading these blitzes and things like that, so it'll even out. But they're going to get to Tom Brady in this game. They figured out these ways to dial up these blitzes and get people home on a repeated basis. And I think they're going to be able to get to Tom Brady. They're going to be able to hit Tom Brady. And Tom Brady, he just falls over, right? I mean, he just crumples in the pocket whenever he knows he's about to get hit. He doesn't try to do really anything to extend these plays and stuff. And that's probably it's probably for the better for his skill set at this point in his career. But you look as well, I mean, the defensive side of the ball from the Bucks. I mean, Brad, I'm with you. Like, I think that they'll probably get some pressure on Mahomes, but like, Is that going to be? I mean, so you make them punt once in the course of the game. You make them, like whatever. I just don't know. Like, yeah, they'll probably have better success against Mahomes than the Bills did on defense, and just they're not going to sit in that soft zone the whole time like the Bills did, and just allow him to hit Kelsey repeatedly over and over and over. And Kelsey just ran out there and found a hole in the zone and stopped, and then Patrick Mahomes hit him, and it was just like, it was absurd. Like, they were just letting him do it up and down the field. I don't expect the Bucs to do that. The Bucs won't do that, But, Carlton Davis is not going to be able to shadow Tyreek Hill. Like, if you shadow Tyreek Hill, it is going to be nightmarish. Like, I mean, there is going to be massively huge plays in this game, 60 and 70-yard plays out of Tyreek Hill. He's not the type of guy you can shadow. And so, maybe they do have 2 weeks to scheme on this. They do have 2 weeks to come up with some sort of game plan. But Brad, a lot of people have a lot of time to try to scheme things against Mahomes in this offense, and it's just very, very tough to do. Everyone wants to talk about the games they didn't cover this year and all that, but like at the end of the day, they won 15 friggin' games. They only lost one game, and it's like, I just don't see how they lose this one.
Yeah, I mean, so the Bucs may have 2 weeks to scheme and prepare, but obviously so does Andy Reid, and I think he's probably a better offensive mind than Todd Bowles is a defensive mind. As good as Bowles is, I think Reid is just the best play caller in the game at the minute. So I would say two things I wanted to add. One is Eric Fisher, the left tackle for the Chiefs, torn Achilles yesterday, so he's going to be out. So they will be missing both starting tackles, and we saw what Tampa Bay's pass rush did yesterday against an elite offensive line. So there is a good chance that Tampa does get pressure, especially with Vita Vea back, a few more snaps under his belt. I think he did have an impact yesterday, commanding double teams. I think they only put him in there on third downs, but then that frees up Barrett and JPP on the outside for one-on-one matchups. So that could be a bit of a disadvantage for the Chiefs. But I would also say the defense yesterday was I thought superb. They were left in man-on-man on the outside against Diggs, Beasley, John Brown, good receivers. And Romo kept talking about it, just how sticky that coverage was. And so if that's the case as well, the Bucs receivers are good, but so were the Bills receivers. And that kind of sticky coverage and Chris Jones up front, I was very impressed by the Chiefs defense as well. And the final thing I would say was last year, I would say the San Francisco team in the Super Bowl was about as well set up as anyone to beat the Chiefs with, just that ridiculous pass rush now with Bosa, Buckner, Armstead. Right, the Bucs can't replicate that. And I would say that the first half of that game, the 49ers did about as well as you could possibly do. But in the end, the pass rush does tire. You get a 45-minute halftime, some adrenaline goes, you tire, and you can't hold. It's like trying to hold back the tide.
Right.
Like Tyreek and Kelsey, you can't stop them. So yeah, I firmly believe the Chiefs will score 35 here. So I guess for me the bigger question is what Tom Brady can do against that defense, which, as I say, looked superb yesterday.
And that's where I also think we can kind of gloss over it because it's a win. But Tom Brady got picked 3 different times, and one pick that went right through the safety's hands that should have been picked off as well. I mean, could have had 4 picks in that game, Brad. And I look at this, and he's been great all year long. I wanted to bury him. The guy was great. That does not mean because he was great all year that we gloss over the fact that yesterday he threw 3 picks. Most of which were bad picks, I might add, and got one that literally hit the safety as if he was throwing it to the safety on the route and in the hands, and the safety just completely whiffed on it. Could have been 4 picks in this game. And, I would say at this juncture in the season, I don't think there's really any question that the Chiefs defense is better than the Packers defense. And so if the Packers defense presented that much of an issue for Tom Brady, I do wonder if the Chiefs defense can really kind of hold this offense down.
Yeah, and Brady was bad versus the Saints as well. They won that game because of turnovers and a couple of big plays, and just Breeze being terrible. And then the right guard situation. Again, this Tampa offensive line is very, very good, and they protected very well yesterday. But they're still weak. They've got a backup at right guard, whose name I forget, but he's got about 50 career snaps. And Kenny Clark for the Packers had a bit of luck there yesterday. And given what Chris Jones was doing yesterday against the good Bills O-line, I would think he will be in Brady's face a few times. And as you say, he's not escaping. He's turtling up and taking his 5-yard loss. And that could be a drive killer, given how sticky the Chiefs' coverage is. So, I definitely at this stage, I'm strongly favouring the Chiefs.
I guess the only other thing we can talk about here before we go, the total sitting at 56.5. Now, one of the things we know about Super Bowl totals is they open them artificially inflated because people bet the over no matter what. Like, it is the most popular thing that casual bettors do. And this has been historically over the last 10, 15 years. They will open these totals higher than they should because nobody's betting the under here. So first and foremost, if you like to the under in this game, you wait. You just hold out for 2 weeks because this thing is going to trickle up at least another half point, if not another full point, because again, every casual bettor bets the over. Nobody bets the under ever. So I will say this, though, Brad. I mean, I see a path to where this could land under because I do see a path where the Chiefs score 31 in this game, but we're looking at like a 17-point output, from the Bucs. Like I can see a scenario where this thing goes under, but it's never fun holding an under ticket whenever you're playing Patrick Mahomes.
No, I would say if you like the under, the first half and the first quarter, we know Super Bowls have been, I don't have the exact stats in front of me, but the first quarter under has been a real money spinner in Super Bowls. And I think that's probably just because of how fired up the defense is. These pass rushers, they've had 2 weeks to refresh themselves, and they come out with their heads on fire. And especially, that's probably the only way you're going to keep Mahomes out is when you've got fresh pass rushers and going up against backup tackles. I think if you'd like the under, I would look first half. And then the one bet I always like as well is second half higher scoring, which I think, as I mentioned, that halftime show, I've heard players talk about the adrenaline dump. You're sat in the locker room in the dark for 45 minutes after
right.
playing with your hair on fire, and then you come out and you've lost that adrenaline. Like you can't be just 100% amped up for 5 hours or
right.
4 hours. It just doesn't work like that. And that's when you also get 45 minutes to make adjustments for the offense. So I usually like second half to be high scoring as well.
I guess the real question here, though, Brad, heads or tails? Because that's going to be the prop bet that everybody's talking about here. Are you a heads guy or are you a tails guy?
I'm a tails man. Tails never fails. You've got to have like $4 on the coin toss just to get you in the flow of things, I find.
You do. It's going to be awesome, guys. Once these props start hitting, we'll have entire podcasts dedicated to some of these props as well. They're little things are starting to hit right now. You can look at alternative spread totals out there. You can look at alternative. You can look at anytime scores. They already have those up. First time touchdown scores. They already have that up as well. They have Super Bowl MVP up as well. So they're starting to trickle out. And again, as these things really get out there, that is when we'll have a full-on podcast dedicated to nothing but props. And then, of course, we're going to talk about, this game a ton over the course of the next 2 weeks. So be sure while you're here, if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below so that you're notified every time that we post a video on the channel. And if you're listening to this on podcast, be sure and go and subscribe, rate, and review. We do appreciate all of that as we break all this stuff down. But we'll have Brett back. Me and Brad are going to be breaking down all of this stuff, and hopefully we can find some angles to make some money on this Super Bowl for you guys here in a couple of weeks. For Brad, I'm Matt. Talk to you guys next week.